Welcome everyone. Today we'll have an amazing Void Knight build that we'll be learning with over 1000 corruption. Looking behind me, you can see an infinite stacking Void Knight with tons of buffs and also tons of stacks. And this particular setup has tons of warding, tons of increasing damage, and our damage will always become higher and also even higher as you continuously to attack the enemy. Now before we dive into the learning guide, let's briefly have a look at the highlights for this particular Void Knight build. So firstly, we'll be converting strength into intelligence with close to 100 intelligence coming from the strength using the clever solution. After that, we'll be stacking infinite damage increase with the critical strike multipliers through the Eye of Ring. This is a very interesting weapon, and this weapon has infinite stacking potential as long as we stack increasing attack speed. And this is going to be one of the highlights of the build as we deal even more damage against single enemies over the time. Now, similar to most of the popular ward build, we'll be gaining additional ward rotation through cold resistance, together with gaining additional ward through missing health. And the intelligence will provide us even more ward retention with over 700% retention. Now in terms of the skills, we'll be casting Healing Hand through direct melee attacks, and Healing Hand will become a melee spell. Together, Healing Hand will also become a traversal spell, which allows us to get the most damage out of Rave. And this is combined with multiple ways of amplifying the damage enemy takes, and this also provides us with tons of attack speed buffs through Anomaly with tons of attack speed, casting speed, cooldown recovery, and also increased critical strike chances. So coming over to the video with over 1000 corruption on Void Knight. We'll be learning this video from Piemon over here, and this is actually a really amazing setup with a lot of survivability and also with a lot of damage. So starting off, let's have a look at some of the echo runs with this particular Void Knight with over 1000 corruption. Now it is very rare to see a Void Knight reaching this high corruption with all the other meta builds, and I was really excited after lots of viewers were asking me to have a look at this particular video and then demonstration and also teach them how to make this particular setup. And what you can see right away is a Void Knight will be gaining tons of ward together with tons of increased attack speed and also increased damage. Yes, this build has a lot of potential together with mobility, sustain, and also tons of single target damage over time. The Eye of Rain, the particular sword, will allow you to stack 5% of critical strike, increased critical strike multipliers with each of the stacks. And you can see the little sword icon. A Void Knight is constantly sitting on over 10, 20, 30, even up to 40 stacks. And this will give us tons of critical strike multiplier. Together with the critical chances we're stacking, we'll be dealing a lot more damage. Now throughout the map, you can see that a Void Knight doesn't really have a problem with surviving, and the damage it deals is pretty sizable. I would say this is taking the best part of the Paladin together with a Void Knight with increasing damage. Now because the Void Knight skills provide him with additional buffs like casting speed, attack speed, critical chances, and also additional damage amplifier with a Void reversal up to 30%, this allows the Void Knight to deal even more damage against the boss and together with tons of AoE damage. Now jumping over to the fight against the single target boss, you can see that our Void Knight friend is dealing tons of damage. Now I know he's trying to dodge the boss's attacks, but I think he's tanky enough to tank it maybe. And you can see here, as long as he stick onto the boss together with tons of buffs, he's gaining tons of attack increase. And the attack critical numbers goes from 30,000 to over 120,000, and this always goes higher. So this is actually a really cool setup that if you can stick onto the enemies, your attack will always be stacking. And this will be depending on your attack speed. So the faster you attack, the more stacks you get and even more damage you will deal. So this is a really cool concept of the Void Knight build that provides us with tons of sustainability through ward gain and also tons of additional damage through the use of the spells. Now in the later part of the video, I'll briefly go through the skill rotations, which are very straightforward and allows you to deal tons of damage. Together with the ability to kill the monster at a lower threshold, this is a very powerful build to push for even higher corruption. Now before we jump over to the builder's guide, I want to give a big shout out and also thank you for Piemon for sharing this particular Void Knight setup. And I do want to have a strong recommendation of coming over to watch his video. He has some amazing editing skills, and even though he wasn't talking in the videos, there's some really fun part that you really want to watch. And over here, it even provides us with an alternative that you can even go faster with a Void Knight through different use of charges and also different concept using different setups. So I strongly recommend you have a watch of this video. He did an amazing job and it's really fun to watch. He was telling a story and he gives a lot of great tips in terms of pushing for higher corruptions. So if you guys want to learn a great Void Knight in-game build, make sure you follow Piemon and also check out his latest videos. So coming over to a builder's guide. You can see there are several links to the builder's guide, and what I have done is I have to try to maximize the build while providing you guys with a cheaper version of the build. So make sure you guys use the links below to see a variety of the build, including for the circumstances if you cannot craft this particular experimental Affix onto the gloves, which will be essential, but if you can't, you can use these gloves for the meantime until you can craft those onto the right gloves. So coming over to the final version of the endgame build. And if you guys cannot make those particular items, there is a cheaper version available for you guys to go through that. So jumping directly over to the skills. Healing Hand will be one of the ways to deal tons of damage together becoming a traversal spell. So this particular spell will allow us to deal damage and also auto-cast this spell while using melee attacks. Healing Hand is also converted into fire damage on hit with a melee damage scaling, and this will be allowing us to heal ourselves and be amplified with even more healing effectiveness. And this is quite important as this will be the center focus of the build. The second form of additional damage dealing will be coming from Rave. Rave have multiple sources of increased damage and also increased attack speed and also increased waves against enemies. So as you can see, as we path over here, Rave will also allows us to pull enemies together with an increased mana cost, together with the ability to have a kill threshold. Rave can also be auto-casting Healing Hand for us, and this allows the build to be extremely simple as you hold down Rave and dealing tons of damage. Now we are having 3 supportive skills as the Void Knight. The first one will be Sigil of Hope, and this allows us to have increased damage per sigil activated. Sigil will be auto-summoned through killing enemies, together with increased maximum sigil, and also ability to increase block chance and also blocking effectiveness with the sigils. This makes the build extremely tanky. Now one of the best utility spell coming from the Void Knight will be Anomaly. This particular spell will become a bubble around our character, providing us with increased casting speed, attack speed, increased cooldown recovery, and also increased critical strike chance, while having increased duration and also increased effectiveness against enemies. So this is a self-sustained buff that allows us to deal even more damage. Together with Volatile Reversal, this allows us to have an increased damage taking for the enemies, and this is one of the best co-op and also single target spell that amplifies the damage a character deal by up to 30%. Now briefly going through over the passives. For the Sentinel trait, you do want the dual hand wielding through Gladiator. Together with additional attack speed will be really good as we stack a lot of damage. Now in terms of the Forge Guard, we'll be going with some additional increase of strength and also increased block effectiveness and also block chance for more defensiveness. Coming over to the Paladin tree, we will be getting some additional stats together with additional increased healing effectiveness and also resistance. This allows our Healing Hand to deal even more damage. Now as we go through the Void Knight tree, we'll be getting additional strength and also additional increase in attack speed together with increased echo chance, which allow us to trigger even more attacks, and this in return will proc even more unique effects for even higher critical strike multipliers for higher damage. So briefly going through the items for the Void Knight. We'll be using Clever Solution to provide us with tons of intelligence, which will be translated into additional ward retention. We have talked about Eye of Rain, and this particular item will give us increased fire damage, melee damage, with additional critical strike multiplier and also increased fire damage over time. This stack can stack indefinitely over the 5 seconds, and it is only limited by our attack speed. So this is why you can see the build is stacking a lot of melee attack speed, and even more attack speed onto the gloves. And this will allow us to have even faster attack speed with the echoes of the Void Knight to deal even more damage with a lot of stacks for even more critical strike multiplier. Now we'll be getting tons of critical chances coming from this particular unique helmet, together with Healing Hand effectiveness and also increased leveling. We'll be focused on the main stats including strength, cold resistance, which will give us even more intelligence and also even more ward retention with cold resistance. Now I don't have to say much about the gloves, those are essential, and yes guys, if you do not have the gloves, we do have a version of the uncrafted gloves, and you can aim for something similar until you can craft those onto the gloves. In terms of the rings and also the belt, the Siphon of Anguish and also the Shattering Chains allows us to have the melee attack increase percentage multiplier with the Doom stacks. This is the biggest highlight for those particular combos, and this is why you always see those rings coming together with the belt. Now in terms of the Sun Wealth, this particular item do have a chance of coming with higher legendary potential, and you can get this one to legendary 3 potential quite easily. And a Void Knight friend has opted for this particular ring, I believe for even higher increased fire melee damage, and also for the ability to have increased fire damage on the Implicit, together with availability for 3 or 4 legendary potential on this cheaper unique item. Now in terms of the Exalted items, we'll be going with increasing healing effectiveness, increasing skill rank to Rev, and also additional strength if possible. We'll also be going with the experimental Affix to gain Frenzy after using a traversal spell. Keep in mind guys, Healing Hand is a traversal spell, so you can be using this one quite often, which allows you to gain Frenzy for even higher attack speed. And finally, as for the relic, we'll go with strength, increased healing effectiveness, cold resistance, and also chance to apply validity. Together with the ability to apply shredding armor on hit, this allows the build to have even more high damage against a single target. Now in terms of the blessings, we'll be going with Throne of Ambition to have increased armor. Our build is already sitting at close to 60% armor reduction or armor mitigation, and this will push even higher with defensiveness. Now we're going with larger idols to provide increased healing effectiveness, chance to apply armor shedding on melee hits, and also increased fire penetrations as you can see over here. Together with additional healing effectiveness and also additional ways to deal even more damage through physical damage increase or finding any resistance we're missing for the build. In terms of the blessings, we're going with critical strike multipliers, increased physical damage, increased fire damage, increased cold resistance, and also finally warding per second. We will be dealing physical damage through Rev and dealing fire damage through the Healing Hands, and this is quite important as we have multiple sources of damage. Now coming over to the skill rotation of the build, it is very simple and straightforward. You are super tanky as you gain tons of warding through the gloves and also through the ability to use Healing Hands automatically. Against a stronger elite, you can be casting Void Knight buffs through Anomaly and also Reversal, and this will allow you to deal tons of damage and even higher damage as you stand your ground. So against a single target, you don't have a problem. And the build has a pretty sizable AoE for a melee build. So this allows you to drag in most of the enemies with your Rave and then taking them down within a few seconds. Now Healing Hand is converted to one of our mobility spells, so whenever you can be using Healing Hand to charge forward towards enemies, and this will also provide you with Frenzy through your boots, and this together will give you tons of more attack speed and even more damage. Now most of the time you don't have to be casting your sigils, as you kill enemies you have a 6% chance of auto casting those, but against the boss we do want to be casting those for even higher damage. Now in terms of the single boss fight, you can see our Void Knight friend here is doing tons of single target damage as long as you can stick onto the boss. Sometimes you do want to avoid a lot of massive damage hits, but if you are stacking a lot of ward, you can tank that yourself. As long as you are tanking the boss or as long as you are sticking onto the boss, your damage numbers will rack up quickly. You can see the particular buffs over here ranking up to over 50 stacks, and this will translate into over 250 critical strike multipliers. Now during this time, you want to keep up with your sigils and then stick onto the boss and dealing tons of damage. You can see there are so many ways of stacking increasing damage, and the damage number really racks up as you do even more attacks with high attack speed. Now because the build does have a kill threshold at 15% with Rev, and as you can see over here, the boss will be one-shotted after you deal 85% of the HP in terms of damage, and this is really powerful for the build against a single target. Now hopefully you guys enjoy this Void Knight build. It is really amazing to see a build that uses multiple items that can be stacking with lots of intelligence, ward retention, together with infinite damage gain through attack speed and also through this unique weapon. And again, a big thank you and also shout out for Piemon, and I do recommend you come over to this amazing well edited video. He added some great music, and the video itself will actually tell you an amazing story of the Void Knight's journey against over 1000 corruption. And best of all guys, come over to the video and you can see additional loot filters for the Void Knight should you want to start this build. Now if you guys find my videos and also guides helpful and also want to support my passion in making more guides and also more videos for the last Epoch and also more games to come like Path of Exile, please consider joining me on Patreon, and also here I have created my Ko-Fi page. You can also support me directly through donations, but supporting me continuously with one of those memberships will mean a lot for my future updated videos and to become financially sustainable so I can be continuing making videos for you guys and doing what I love the most, and that is to share and also teach our communities as I dive into different games and making more guides for you guys. And as you guys gonna see in the future, I'll have different ranks and also perk advantages and also special events and also special features for members like account reviews, perfecting the build for you guys, and also co-op time play, and also even special future videos for you guys on your special build for different members.